Oh, Ballon.
Almost blistering starts to a tennis match.
The Shakespeare got it wrong. It wasn't King Lear. It's King Lear.
LeBron James with no regard for human.
Yuvraj Singh finishes things off on style.
This is a News Laundry podcast, and you're listening to NL Playoffs.
Hello and welcome to NL Playoffs. My name is Gautam. I have with me my co-host Aniket. Aniket, say hello.
Hello world.
Aniket, this is round 10 of NL Playoffs. We are officially in the double digits, so I guess that gives us some kind of authenticity, I guess. I'm not so sure, but we are in the number of episodes as Anil Kumble had wickets on that Delhi test in that one inning, so 10 for 74, I believe. So double digits, man. Feeling good.
I was going to be nonchalant and say who's counting anyways, but I am.
Trust me, I'm counting. It's kind of still surreal to me that we are at double digits. Trust me.
For sure.
I'm in India, by the way, Aniket. We've discussed this offline. I've came to India, after 4 years, I think. So it's been quite a busy time, and I've hardly had any time catching up to any of the sporting action. I should probably be upfront in saying that. But, I've been... it's hard to miss sports, I guess. I've not been able to watch a lot of games, but I've been keeping up and keeping track. But I know you have been probably watching sports more than me, so I will leave it to you to take the lead on the headlines, and then we can take it from there.
No pressure, huh?
No, not really.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you're back in India. I am going to be there soon, so I'm not envious of you yet. But no, I'm glad you're back with the family after 4 long years. It's been, you said, Gautam?
Yeah, being here in December in the winter season is awesome. In India in winter is great, especially when you're living in Chicago area in America. It's just nuts there right now.
For sure. So with that being said, let's go through our favorite sport, India's favorite sport, cricket. Let's start with that. So I'm sure you've seen the India-New Zealand first test, which actually ended in a draw. And there's also the IPL retention list that's outside. So,
by the way, I watched the India-New Zealand, the first test. I did not watch it thoroughly, but I did catch bits and pieces of it. I did watch the significant chunk of the final day's play. So, just to recap, it ended in a draw, as you said, Aniket. But it ended in a thrilling draw because it had everything to do with what the final day's test cricket brings. So it had wickets falling all over the place, pitch being nasty, ball was not bouncing, the spin was there, the light was fading. Winter in India, how light fades pretty quickly. They're playing in Green Park in Kanpur, so it had everything. And New Zealand were 9 wickets down. India needed 1 wicket to win. And then the final pitch just held on, and the light was fading. Umpires were, at the end of every over, umpires were like looking at the light meter and making sure it's not completely faded, and they're playing one more over. And finally, they did play all the regulated overs, but somehow New Zealand held on. New Zealand came out of it much better than India, I guess, because this was a match India should have won and not the other way around.
Yeah, so remind me, Gautam, typically how does India do when you're playing the subcontinent, right? This is our strength. This is in our backyard. So this is our time to shine.
India has a terrific record at home, especially in the Virat Kohli era. It's been kind of crazy. Ashwin and Jadeja have been like the linchpins as far as the bowling attack goes. So both of them, even in this game, Akshay Patel was also playing. Even in this game, they were going well, but I think New Zealand is a formidable opposition. And then when you have the likes of Kane Williamson kind of holding fort, it's kind of hard to penetrate through the defense, which is why I said, New Zealand will take more brownie points out of this than India did.
For sure. When is the next test? Do you have an idea? I'm sorry, so out of the cricket sync right now.
I think it's starting right now on the 3rd. It's scheduled to start on the 3rd of December. As we are recording this, there's been a delay with the toss because of rains. I'm kind of looking forward to it because it's been a lot of cricket in our lives, I feel like, because there was the IPL and the T20 World Cup, and immediately now New Zealand literally flew from the Middle East to India to play test cricket. So it's been on overdrive, but test cricket I'm all in. I'm definitely going to watch whenever I can.
For sure. I'm actually super excited because test cricket is a thing me and my dad do pretty often. Like I saw the game last time I was in India during this time, so we were at the tour of Australia. It's kind of a thing that we do. We sit and we watch. as you may know, not the biggest of fans of cricket, especially T20 cricket, but Test, oh yes, very interesting. Yeah, so Gautam, after the first test, we also want to look at the IPL retention list, like players, their prices. It's almost like the stock market of cricket, like stocks going up, down. It's pretty interesting. What do you think about it? Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you want to?
So the IPL has a new, for lack of a better word, draft coming up where all of the players, except for a few who are retained by individual franchisees, go into the lottery or the auction again. So each team were given 3 players or 4 players rather that they could retain. And remember, all of these teams have a salary cap as well. So they have all of the team players and how much they buy for have to fall within a certain cap limit. So each team were given 4 players that they could retain. And also remember, next year we have 2 more IPL teams coming in. So except for the retained players, everybody else will go into the auction, and then the highest bidder wins, right? So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But the players that each teams have retained are pretty obvious. So Dhoni and Jadeja got retained, for example, with the Chennai Super Kings. Andre Russell got retained for the Kolkata Knight Riders. Rohit Sharma got retained. Bumrah got retained, right? Kohli got retained, for example. But it will be interesting to see because there are still quite a few number of star players who did not get retained. So the likes of KL Rahul, Shreyas Iyer, who I think is a captaincy material for any franchise, Rashid Khan, all of these guys did not get retained. So it will be interesting to see once the auction happens and see what happens.
I was so surprised to see that Sunrisers Hyderabad have not retained Rashid Khan. I mean, he's like the only thing we had. I don't know what these guys are thinking. So
I think it has to do with the prize. They probably had to pick between Kane Williamson and Rashid Khan. I think they eventually ended up picking Kane Williamson because of what he brings to the table, not just his batting but his captaincy as well, right? Because Rashid Khan, I'm sure, costs upwards of 10 crores. Kane Williamson got retained for 14 crores, and I don't think they could afford to retain another player for a similar amount. So it was one of those situations. It'll be interesting to see once the auction happens if they go all in with Rashid Khan. I don't know, but we'll see.
I see. Well, it's good to know. Okay, I was like, when I saw the list, I was in mild words hurt.
I mean, if you look at it, Ravindra Jadeja got retained for 16 crores for Chennai, and then Rishabh Pant also got retained for the Delhi Capitals for 16 crores. And I think Rishabh Pant is being seen by Ricky Ponting as captaincy material, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Rishabh Pant, I think, is a very young guy, and I don't think he's captaincy material yet, but we'll see what happens.
I wanted to sidetrack on that topic when you said that. Like, what are your thoughts? I think I got your thoughts and I agree with your thoughts. But only time will tell us if you're wrong.
Well, if Ricky Ponting says he's going to groom him, I guess definitely it's worth a shot. Even without the captaincy, I think he's a really good player. But we'll see what happens. I for sure don't think he is captaincy material yet. But Akshar Patel got retained for 9 crores for the Delhi Capitals, which I think is, I don't know, it's he's a good player, but I don't think he is a player worth retaining if you're a franchise. But he's been a really good T20 player, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, he's a left-arm spinner and a below-average batsman. So I don't think they had to retain him for 9 crores, but every team has its own well-laid plans. So it's interesting. I for sure don't agree with that decision to retain Akshar Patel.
What are your thoughts on Varun Chakrabarti?
Varun Chakrabarti has been really good. See, I like because he's a leg spinner. He's an unorthodox leg spinner, and leg spinners do really well in T20 competition. He's one of those skiddy. He's like Rashid Khan. He's one of those skiddy leg spinners who can bowl. He can bowl the googly. He has all those variations. He played for India in the T20 World Cup. Didn't do that well, but nobody did well in the World Cup for India, so that's another thing. But I think Varun Chakrabarti is a really good retention for Kolkata Knight Riders. Andre Russell was retained for 12 crores. He's had his fair share of injuries, but then if he's fit, he automatically walks into any T20 side. So they were able to retain Sunil Narayan, which is awesome, I think, for 6 crores. For 6 crores, I think he's a bargain. He gets you so much, not just with the ball. He's probably the most economical bowler in the IPL right now. But then he also brings in that extra layer of batting. He opens the batting. He comes in at number 3, 4, just hits the ball around, makes 22 of 6 balls and gets out. That's all you need pretty much from him. So he's a great buy.
So with that being said, let's move on to our next headline, which is from the world of tennis, and it's coming from down under in Australia, the Australian Open. Djokovic won't probably play because of COVID regulations. So, Gautam, tell us more about this.
So it's kind of I don't know if it's interesting or not, but Australian Open is starting on the 17th of January. So it's almost just over a month to go for the Australian Open to start. On the men's side of things, the defending champion is Novak Djokovic. He won the Australian Open in 2021. Things have slightly changed from 2021 and 2022 because we've had the whole lockdown and shutdown and the pandemic and whatnot. So Novak Djokovic has not disclosed whether he is vaccinated or not. We were just discussing this offline as well, Aniket. Australia is very, very stringent and strict when it comes to their COVID regulations, and they are going to allow players to play only if they are vaccinated. If Novak Djokovic is not ready to disclose whether he's vaccinated or not, it appears that he's probably not going to play. His dad came out on Serbian show and said he's probably not going to play. I mean, his dad himself said that he doesn't know whether Novak got vaccinated or not. So that's the whole thing. I'm pretty sure, but in most likely it looks like he's not going to play, because I personally think he has not gotten vaccinated yet based on statements he's made previously and some of his actions. And it's too late now, I think, to get the vaccine anyway, because you have to take the first dose and the second dose after a few weeks, unless he's taking the one-shot thing, which I doubt they are doing it in Europe. And it's, 40 days to go for the start of the tournament. So I highly doubt, if he is not vaccinated yet, that he's going to play in the Australian Open.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm not surprised. I must put it out there that Tennis Australia has taken this stand, because they're, like you said, pretty strict, right? And we know folks who've been in Australia, and they've shut down, they've gone in lockdowns for like one case, right? Yep. So they are pretty stringent along those lines and uncompromising, and well, they should be, I guess, whatever works for them. But what's more interesting is I don't know, this whole personal right on vaccine, whether you want to disclose or not. It is what's your thought, Gautam? Because I have opinions. It's your personal right, but if your personal right infringes on someone else's personal right, it's not personal anymore. So I don't know.
And also, if in a way, it's a choice that we have to make, right? So you and I work for various companies or for various institutions, right? And every institution, every company has an established policy that every employee is supposed to adhere to. So again, that's a choice that you have to make, which is, if you have to work for somebody, you have to follow their policies. If you don't follow their policies, the company has a right to fire you or to dismiss you, or you have a choice to just leave the company if you don't agree with their policies, right? So I see it like that. Now, Australian Open, or the organizers of the Australian Open, are the employers for Novak Djokovic if he plays in the tournament and if he plays in the Grand Slam. And according to them, if they say our policy is that players get vaccinated before they can play, that means they have to adhere to it. Which is why I think, if Djokovic does not want to disclose whether he's vaccinated or not, fair play to him. But then if the organizers of the Australian Open feel that he can't play because he's not disclosing whether he's vaccinated or not, fair play to them as well. So I don't think anybody is wrong or right in this situation.
I don't know how the Australian Open will be without Djokovic, because he is the defending champion, but we'll be fine. World does not end there, so we'll move on.
He has enough chances to eclipse everybody, so I'm not too worried about Djokovic's legacy or anything like that. But he's definitely a quirky character, I'll tell you that.
With that being said, so there is Formula 1 coming up this weekend. So it's going to be the first Grand Prix in the Saudi Arabia circuit, which is a brand new street circuit, and it's supposed to be one of the fastest street circuits in the world. So they're expected to hit like 322 kilometers per hour on this street circuit, and they're calling it high-speed Monaco. That's how they like to say it. Well, we'll only know after the race has happened. That's their marketing pitch. Yeah, exactly, right. So we only know what the ground reality is after the first race has happened, whether it's a hit or a miss. But
it's interesting. Is it going to be a day Grand Prix or a night Grand Prix? Do you know, Aniket?
Saudi Arabia is indeed going to be the 5th full night race in Formula 1 calendar.
Okay, it is.
So that's happening. So the title fight is pretty tight, Gautam. It's between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, and Lewis Hamilton seems to have his back against the wall. But Max Verstappen seems so abnormally cool. Like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's not normal that Max Verstappen is that cool, isn't he? He's keeping his composure. He's kind of, in a way, when he even, I think it was not the previous Grand Prix in Qatar, but even before that, I think it might have been in Brazil when Lewis Hamilton won. He was kind of giving him props and stuff. So I was like, okay, he's kind of pivoting a little bit to keep an even mind to focus, I think. But now that we are in kind of the pointy end of the championship, I'm really looking forward to this, because there's nothing better than a close finish in Formula 1 at the end, because we always see the fair share of one-sided championships every year, right? Lewis Hamilton all these years, Michael Schumacher all those years, 4 straight for Vettel. Close championship races are hard to come by. We saw Hamilton and Rosberg, right? That was probably the last closest one, if I'm not wrong, Aniket. And that was, 6 years ago, maybe? It's been quite a while since we've seen a very close finish, so I'm really looking forward to this.
And yeah, just to add to what you said, Gautam, about Max Verstappen, he's very sorted in his head, because I think we spoke about this briefly earlier on the season 2. When he won his first 2 races, there was no going crazy, no ecstasy or nothing. He was very sorted about, like, okay, this is a long year ahead, because I think he's been losing 2 years, 3 years, I think, back to back. In one, I think 3 years back he was not even in like proper contention. So I think he's been very clear, like, the celebration actually matters after the end of the year now in his head, and he seems to be at least moving in that direction, so more power to him.
I think the only time he lost his mind was when they collided in Silverstone, right? That was the only time I remember where he kind of lost it, but other than that, he's been fairly composed.
For sure. And I just saw their pre-match or pre-race interviews, and both of them, Lewis Hamilton, he says he's going back to his childhood days. This reminds him of his childhood time, where competition's high and he's enjoying it. So is Max Verstappen, uber cool. Like, he came out saying that I'm focusing only on the small things, like how can I make this car better, and what I can do good. I don't care about the big things. If I win, I win. So, well, both are pretty sorted, so very interesting to see how this race pans out.
Yeah, tunnel vision, right? He's doing one of those things. If anybody can focus like that, it's Formula 1 drivers, because that's what they do day in and day out, right? So, I mean, we'll see what happens. But Sir Frank Williams, he died last week, and I know, Aniket, you kind of read up about him and you kind of know what his legacy is in the world of Formula 1. So, he died at the age of 79 last Sunday. By the way, we are recording this on the 3rd of December. In the morning, India time. Anyway, I know you read up a little bit on Frank Williams, Aniket. So, what was his legacy and what did he stand for?
Yeah, thanks for saying I read a little bit, Gautam, but no pressure. So, so I'm going to talk from what I know about Frank Williams. It's just that I've been following Formula 1 for some time, so I know a little bit about him, which is very interesting. And I'm for sure we can do a deeper dive into his career, because he actually started off his career as a driver and a mechanic. So, which is pretty interesting, and then he moved on to found Williams Racing, and it's been an insanely successful team. I think they've had some of the craziest drivers. They are on a kind of on a low, because the family had to sell the Williams company, I think last year. But they were doing pretty well up to, I think, 2008, because they have like a legacy of drivers. Nico Rosberg was one of them who came out from their academy. Valtteri Bottas was one of our Williams drivers. So,
in fact, I remember when Williams was at least when I was watching in the early 2000s, Ralf Schumacher and Juan Pablo Montoya were the 2 Williams drivers, and they did really well. They were not championship material team, but they were always in like second or third in the constructors.
Yeah, and it's been a very interesting journey, right? So he was, like I said, a mechanic, and then I read somewhere, and maybe I'm wrong, but he also worked as a traveling grocery salesman. So it's a very interesting, and then he built this giant Formula 1 car. So they're constructors, right? So they're a team, they build their own cars. So he was a mechanic. So if you think about the technology that actually goes behind a Formula 1 car, you've got to be crazy passionate to do things like this in the 21st century, at least. If you think about some passionate guy going and starting his own company, it just seems so insane right now. But Frank Williams did it back in, like, I believe 1969 or 66. So it's a very interesting story, and we should maybe do a deeper dive into just the Williams racing team's journey, because that precisely is what Frank Williams' trajectory, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's kind of sad that, well, in a way it was coming, right? You can start a company with all your passion, run it, and then somebody else takes over and slowly takes a downturn. And it's inevitable that once it slowly, especially in the world of Formula One, is where it's such ruthless competition, you're just left on the wayside if you're not keeping up. And once that happens, it was kind of inevitable that they were going to get bought over. So they were just in a mess. I think, was it season 2 of Drive to Survive where they show what really the struggles were in the Williams paddock. So yeah, I mean, kind of bittersweet, but at the end of the day, Frank Williams, I think, as you said, was a pioneer in his field. We saw tributes pouring in from across all the drivers, current and past, kind of paying tributes to Frank Williams. So definitely check him out if you can.
For sure. And it was the Williams family, right? So his daughter Claire was the one who was recently running the show at Williams, right? Sorry, my mind is tripping there. But at Williams, and before they actually sold out. So as a family, I think they exited the Williams company. So with that being said, maybe let's do a deeper dive on this. I find this very interesting, Gautam. I don't know if you are, but we can definitely put it on our bucket list and come down this road someday.
Yeah, I mean, our list keeps growing, but I think we should.
Yeah, it's the to-do list, right? It just keeps increasing, and you are hardly striking things off. So
yeah,
so just to summarize that part of the Formula One discussion, it's tragedy, but the world moves on because you build such a legacy. I think in a lot of ways, I see this as the impact you want to leave in the world, right? Is you have, I don't know, at least how you think about it, but I think is you impact at least one person's life more apart from your family, right? So it's not only you and your family, but just impacting another one person's life. And especially when you impact like thousands of people like this, it's a pretty inspiring life in my head.
Yeah, and I think just to kind of take that point, pursuing your passions is something that which carries a lot of risk, is something that I really admire about people. That's something that I have not been able to do in my life, where I have a certain passion and then them actively pursuing it at the cost of everything else is something that I don't have it. I envy other people who do it, because I certainly don't.
We should do a deeper dive on this, Gautam. We should definitely do deeper. This is a topic I'm superly passionate about. It's like discovering your passion. What is passion? But no. So I think you're selling yourself extremely short there, as you always are, super self-critical. But I think you're in a good place following. I think this podcast, to be honest, was started by you. It was your initiative that brought us all together. So I think in some ways you're doing it. You just don't register it.
That is true. That's true. But I'm talking about having a passion and pursuing it full time, right? Which Sir Francis Owen Garbett Williams CBE definitely did.
For sure. And I would like to add a word to your statement. You said I've not been able to pursue it yet, right? So it's not over. It's never over until it's actually over. So we will get to that. Now let's move on to football, which is the busy time of the year for football, for
so crazy right
Premier League especially, because suddenly you're playing on Tuesdays, you're playing on Thursdays, and then like I'm tired just by watching. I don't know how the players are playing these 90-minute games. It's just insane. It's a toll on their.
December is insane in the Premier League. I don't get why they stack so much in December, while you see all these La Liga and other leagues going on a winter break, right? But Premier League just packs it. I guess it's all about the money. It's holiday season, so there are a lot of eyeballs. But I mean, they play during the week. It's so hard to keep up when you're on your normal routine anyway. Now me with my jet lag and different time zones is even more crazy. I don't know which game is happening when. It's hard to keep up. You just told me that Man United played Arsenal last night and they won 3-2. I had no clue that they were playing last night. So it's been crazy. But speaking of Man United, they have a new coach, Aniket.
Yep, they do. Ralph Rangnick. He's the interim coach, right? So he's coming in for, I think, the next 6 months that's left. Just to give context to even to the listeners, we know Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who was the head coach for Manchester United, has been let go after his defeat to Watford, I think. It seemed very comfortable. Things were very comfortable, even though they got hammered by Liverpool and they were on a downward trajectory with Manchester City. I think something about this Watford defeat just changed things, and it seemed a little hasty a decision to take, or maybe there was just so much pressure on the board on top to do something about it. But after the Watford loss, he was let go, and who's the current...
Michael Carrick.
Michael Carrick, yeah. So Michael Carrick is the interim coach who was his number 2. He was actually the number 2 even for the previous coach, right? So he's been there for a while. And he's going to be the interim manager until Ralph Rangnick takes over, who will be 6 months as a coach, and then apparently there's a 2-year contract to be a part of the club's, I think, higher organizational structure. So he's a very, very interesting character, and I think it's interesting times for Man United. It seems like they're looking slightly ahead of the next game with this appointment. Like, it's not about, okay, let's wrap the season up. But having Ralph Rangnick on your organization, he's built tons of clubs. He's taken clubs, I think, like Hanover and Leipzig from League 3 to the Bundesliga, and I think League 4 for Leipzig to Champions League semi-final. So he's done this on many scales. He has his footballing philosophy that he believes in,
which is heavy pressing after losing possession that Liverpool just excels in right now. I mean, if there's one thing that you need Man United to do right now is to put in some effort, and nothing better. I guess no one better to do it than Ralph Rangnick, who's the pioneer of relentless pressure and effort. We'll see what happens. As far as long-term goals go, I'm not really sold. We'll see what Ralph can do. If anything, he's a culture setter that Man United desperately needs right now.
For sure. And because you said this, I was listening to one of Ralph Rangnick's interview, and what a character. So he says,
come on, what is a little bit of pressing? A little bit of pressing is like a little bit of pregnant. Either you are pregnant or not. Either you want to play pressing or not. But not a little bit of pressing. So
he is just such an interesting character. I found that very amusing today. So that made me chuckle. With that being said, you spoke about Liverpool. So let's go to the Merseyside derby. Were you able to follow what happened?
No, I have not watched anything at all. So I know that Liverpool won, but I have no understanding, no idea what happened.
I'm actually afraid of that team right now. The way, again, I couldn't find better words to describe it than heavy metal football. It's like these guys are just pouncing on you with the ball, and they scored 4 goals against Everton at Everton's home. And out of the 4 goals, I think 3 were pretty brilliant goals. And it was a complete, fun time in the park for Liverpool, and exactly opposite for Everton.
So is Rafa in danger?
So I don't know if he's in danger. He's gone 8 games without a win.
Yeah.
He's also after 1860 or 1880 is the first manager to be managing both sides of the derby. So as you know, he's an ex-Liverpool manager.
Yeah.
But I was curious to ask you this. I have never been able to figure out. Do you know what is Rafa's game style like?
Oh, so Michael Cox in his book The Mixer talks about Rafa's tactics, right? So he plays very compact football. In other words, the way he plays is he has a rectangle in the field where the top line is the front line and the back line is the deep defensive line, and they move as they move back and forth. So if the front three, let's say there is a front three, the front three move, the back three also move in conjunction. If the front three move back, the back three also move back in conjunction. So he plays all his team plays in this small rectangle of a fixed length. So that way it's very compact. But the problem is once you go over the top or once you have a through ball, you're just through. But that's his style, which I think makes for small intricate passes, and then playing over the top becomes easy if you're playing against Rafa. So that's his tactic, I think, and he's one of those guys I think who sticks to his tactics and doesn't really budge. But that's his philosophy. Moving on from Premier League, we should talk about the whole Ballon d'Or business and Messi winning it again. So Messi has won his 7th Ballon d'Or, which usually goes to the footballer who was supposed to be the best over the previous season. So this year Messi won. This is his 7th. He has the highest number of Ballon d'Ors, followed by Ronaldo, I think, who has 5. And I think he in his comments after he won the award, he said, in reference to Robert Lewandowski, he said, "You deserve your Ballon d'Or. Last year everyone agreed that you were the winner. I think France football should give you your Ballon d'Or and have it as you deserved it." So here's the whole thing. The Ballon d'Or is given by a French magazine, I believe. France Football is the name of the magazine who presents the Ballon d'Or. Somehow it's one of those, it's like the Nobel, where somehow a private institution's award has gained in popularity because of marketing and because of all of this other stuff, or because they were the first early movers. That's kind of gained popularity, and over the years, initially it was given to the best European footballer, and then I think 95, 96 or some out thereabouts, it kind of expanded to include world football. And Messi and Ronaldo have been running away with it over the last few years. But this year it went to Messi, but last year it was fairly unanimous that Robert Lewandowski was supposed to get this award, but they totally cancelled that award. I don't know why, because football happened, but apparently in their mind, because of COVID, they just cancelled giving away the award, which was supposed to go for Robert Lewandowski. So anyway, what are your thoughts on that?
I think even Messi, Ronaldo don't take this award very seriously anymore. Like, I mean, I don't know if I'm being farcical or sarcastic, but I mean, it started with a great intention, like all the things that start, but now I think it's riddled down. Even though I'm a Messi fan, riddled down with politics and stuff like that. Like, I seriously don't know if Messi should have got it this year. I mean, I'm not saying he shouldn't have. I just don't know if he was the one who deserved it. And again, Robert Lewandowski, if you think about it, I mean, what if you played half a season? You can give an award for that half that you played. I mean, I don't see a point in doing that. If you made them play, you give them the award.
They played the whole season last year, even during COVID. Even though there was no football for 2 or 3 months, all of the leagues finished their seasons out, right?
Yeah. So that's what bothers me. So. And what's interesting is also look at the top 10 picks, right? Like for forwards, they have like for forwards, wingers and stuff. I feel at this point it's more than just performing. Like the criteria changes every year. Like you've got to win something with the national team. If you don't win anything, you got to win the Champions League. If you're not on the Champions League, you got to have some major trophy.
Style plays into it also, by the way. Yeah.
Well, it's very debatable. Technically, Jorginho should have got it. On paper, it should have been his. He's had the greatest season a footballer can imagine, I believe. So,
but like everything else, Aniket, there's a lot of politics involved. There's a lot of gaining favors and all of that stuff. Remember when Messi won that Golden Boot award in the FIFA 2014 World Cup? When who won it that year? Germany won it that year in Brazil, right? Argentina made it to the final. They lost. And Messi won the best player of the tournament award, even though he was not really the best player of the tournament in the 2014
That's like consolation
World Cup.
prize.
Consolation prize. Also remember, it's Adidas Golden Boot, so there is that playing into it as well. Messi is the brand ambassador for Adidas also. So there's all of these things going on, man. Football is a very murky business. I'm not really sold on any of these things. Call me skeptical, but.
Well, I mean, I started with, I don't think Messi and Ronaldo themselves take this trophy very seriously anymore. Like, it's been 12 years sweep just between both of them. Like, nobody ever, I think so many deserving people in the middle have lost it or not got it because of Ronaldo and Messi. And to be very honest, they've not always been the most brilliant that particular year when they've got it. So, there have been a couple of, this is not the first time, there have been a couple of these sketchy award. It's more like a balancing act.
I remember Cannavaro won it when Italy won that World Cup. I remember that thing he did, so that was kind of nice. But yeah, other than that, it's been a Messi and Ronaldo show.
Let's also talk about the couple of honors team Barcelona got. The far few between we are picking nowadays. So Pedri was like the best under 21 player. Well, not surprised. And we also won the women's Ballon d'Or, by the way. So
Alexia Putellas.
That's correct. So she was, I think she was given the trophy, but I don't want to say this, maybe because I'm wrong. Because when I saw it, it was Mbappe who handed her trophy to her. So he called her name. But we can check on that again. And I think, so she was the Women Footballer of the Year.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good. And I think goalkeeper was Gianluigi Donnarumma. Are you surprised, Gautam?
No, I'm not. He's still 22, I think, dude. It's insane that he's so good already.
When he started his career, he was AC Milan like 17 or 18 or something like that. I remember when he started his career with AC Milan. So it's like, oh my god. It already seems like he's in, 22 would be a starting year, right? I think Drogba blossomed around, started getting into the first team 23-24. They called him a late bloomer. And this dude is like the most experienced player on their team at 22. So
and is still not in his prime. It's 22 is not his prime peak athletic age for a goalkeeper anyway. So yeah,
for sure. Yeah. And that is what we have from the awards ceremony that went on in the footballing world.
Yeah, we somehow, Aniket, I think we somehow got through this episode. We were a little hesitant doing this, by the way.
I think with that, Gautam, we should first tell our listeners to support independent media.
Yes.
Guys, pay to keep news free because democracy is in your hands and it's a big responsibility. So distribute it and contribute to it. That's how I would say. So pay to keep news free. Watch News Laundry's other shows. There is NL Hafta, there is Charcha, there is the Nuisance that's going on. I found Meghnad's Sansad Watch very, very interesting.
That is pretty good.
Where, it's a superb show where you're keeping a watch on the parliament and what's happening. So I find that really interesting. So guys, do that. Watch more of the parliament. Because as Meghnad says, only if you watch it, you'll be able to hold it accountable. So...
I mean, nothing more to add other than to say that go to newslaundry.com, hit that subscribe button. If you do want to write to us, please, there is a link, dedicated link that we have, which we are going to put in the show notes. So please go, if you want to write to us, please write to us on that link. But yes, as Aniket said, go click on that subscribe button. Please pay to keep news free. Aniket, do you have any recommendations before we leave?
Yes, I had 2 recommendations. One was from The Athletic, and it's about how the decline of the Chinese Super League. I thought it was a pretty fascinating article. Plus, I think they have a video version of that interview with the person who wrote the article. So we can plug that in. And the other it is non-sport related, but nevertheless interesting. I've read this book called The Third Door. It's by Alex Banyan, and it's a very interesting book. It's about the third door, Gautam, which basically refers to the aspect of not taking the traditional path. So he talks about how you can enter a pub. The simplest example is enter a pub through the main entrance, that is stand up in a line, wait for the bouncer to let you in, or you have the second door, which is the VIP entrance. You find a celeb friend of yours and walk in. And the third door is where you basically go from a window inside, run into the kitchen, run through the traffic, avoid the chefs, and then go in and get your way into the pub, by hook or crook. And he talks about how his life, how you can use this in life, and how his life was made by exploiting the third door. So it's a very interesting book. I thought it's a light read. So that's my recommendation.
I just have one recommendation. It's a book that actually Amit Verma alluded to when we were doing a podcast with him, and this keeps coming up on the list of my recommendations as well. It's something that I have not read yet, so I'm going to definitely pick it up. It is a book called War Minus the Shooting Journey Through South Asia During Cricket's World Cup in 1996 by Mike Marchese. So I'm just going to read a couple of lines on Amazon about the book. The book delves into the dilemmas that dog modern cricket: ball tampering, biased umpires, media moguls, sponsors, race and national identity, gambling syndicates, and much more. So it's not just a book that covers the 96 World Cup, but it just goes beyond that as well and kind of lays the cultural, political, national context in the subcontinent when that tournament was happening in 96. So do check that book out and get your hands to it if you can. The name of the podcast is called 81 All Out, which is a really good cricket podcast. If you want to check it out, please do check that out as well. But yeah, that's my recommendation for today.
Alright then, we'll take your leave. Stay safe everyone. Take care.
Stay safe and have a great day everybody. Thanks for listening to us.
All the News Laundry podcasts are available on Stitcher, iTunes, and any other podcast platform.
Please subscribe to News Laundry. Help us keep news independent. To catch all our podcasts on news, pop culture, current affairs, and sport, visit newslaundry.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.